Hey everyone, we'll be starting in a moment. Please bear with me. Alright, that seems all fine. That every connection seems to be good. No drop frames. Don't need this anymore. Showing up on there, showing up on there. Everything seems to be okay. So let us begin. Hello everyone, welcome to another stream of the Great Ace Attorney. Today we are continuing on with the fourth case. We are looking into the murder of Gregson and seeing if we can prove that the Reaper did not kill him this time. 1 second. Oh. Oh, yawning. Jeez. Okay. But yeah, we are into the next part of the case. We are about to start the second investigation into it. Last time we had done the witness cross-examinations and also the suspect cross-examinations for the Red-Headed League, an Italian and a Frenchman. So, yeah, interesting. We're going to be seeing if we can find out what really happened that day, who killed who, what killed what. If there's a third gun, why everyone's all involved in this case, like what's really going on. And yeah, we're going to see how much we can get done today. Hope we can get the investigation done, but we shall see. Without further ado, let's switch over to the game screen and get straight in. Hey, Rafashon, welcome. Ugh. So my computer finally updated itself. It finally realized I had a new SSD and was like, oh wait, I've got more space. I can install the updates now. And it started installing everything last night. Whether that's going to change any of the font in the game, I don't know. But it has changed the fonts in some places, which is interesting. It also reset my audio and sound things, which is annoying. Right. Sound has been picked up. Show up on there. Refresh. Yep. We good. Right, load game. The Twisted Calmer and his last bow. Investigation part 2. The 2nd of November, 3:38 p.m. Sholmes' suite. I still can't quite believe what just happened. I know. I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned, and it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to hospital to recover. Right. 10 years ago now. Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out the window of the prison governor's office. Oh, okay, so they just straight up confirmed it. But ever since then, he's completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Nobody knew his secret. Not his family, not even the man himself. But I forced it into the open. Actually, no, you didn't. It was actually more Kazma who did that. We were there. Was it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark, I wonder? Runo. Also beat Zelda 2 again, never playing it again. Oh, okay. Nice. Oh, Iris. You were miles away. Anyway, I brewed a fresh pot of soothing tea for you. Hey, Balaroth. Welcome. Oh, thank you. You and Susie have an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh. Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back in the defense antechamber, he disappeared. Oh, no, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, I must leave. I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Gregson's death. Well, you know what Hurley says, always say, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. Lies! Everything should be solved. Everything deserves an answer! Like, is a burger or a sandwich? It's a burger. But a chicken sandwich is not. Bed Wars match. I'm trying to think if you're talking like an actual show called Bed Wars. For the construction of a solution comes only at the expense of the destruction of something else. What does that mean? He knows very well that you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important to him. That's so true. But that's what I like about Hurley after all. I suppose the lot of a great detective in some ways. Well, that's the lot. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Clapping. I don't even think the microphone picked it up, but yeah. Oh, do you have time, Iris? Yes, I finished this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story in the to read the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, Minecraft, okay. That's probably why I don't know about it. You know, I always hide Hurley's violin in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you. Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation. The mask is still there. So, how did it go in court this morning? Well, we still don't know the truth about what really happened, but one thing's increasingly clear. Lord Van Zeeks definitely didn't do it. Oh, goody. Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts as well. Oh, really? And there was another development too. Kazuma. Yes, it's quite clear now that Kazuma-sama is not himself. Maybe it's not even Kazuma. It's a demon who has taken his form. I knew he was dead all along. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed. I was joking, okay? I know. I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Vigil's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder? I really need to sit down with Kazuma and try to understand what he's going through. If Gregson really was murdered the day before his body was discovered, then Lord Van Zeeks has to be innocent, you see. What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out just by examining the corpse, surely. Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report. That is curious. There are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Zeeks, though, aren't there? Like, why does he have bats in his cloak? Where does he get all the wine from? Why is he so extra? What do you mean? Or do you mean... I mean, what was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place? Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he? And it turns out that the little room was actually the Inspector's secret office. Ooh, that sounds like it was all the makings of a wonderfully devilish plot. But then, why was this notice board in there covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this. Okay, Solo. Oh dear, that sounds more like something horribly devilish. We must start by looking into Inspector Gregson's movements of late. Gregsy's movements. I never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements. Well, according to the entry in his diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death. Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Hurley? Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating. They merged. The bats are his emotional support buddies. I always imagine it's like he names each one as like, this one is Robert, this one is Batty, and this one is Sir Edgeworth II. I do wish it was the other way around. Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil, in possession of Gregson's identification. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi. Oh my. Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Gregson need an alibi? It would appear that the inspector had something to do that he wished to keep secret. He named one Balroth. I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a harmless lover of fish and chips. But perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar. The bitter truth of knowledge. That was what it was seasoned with. I think perhaps we should try to move away from food allergies. Well, anyway, if Lord Van Zeeks felt the need to investigate Gregson... Yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows. Vigil, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit Hurley yesterday? That's right. To ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her find her missing husband. Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to hospital? Do you know which one? Probably the same one we keep going to. Ah, it's St. Sinners. I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down. Well, if they did more, they'd have to make more models and more, like, locations for the game. And they don't want to do that. But that's amazing, Runo. You found the lady's husband already. Well, I suppose I have, by accident. And 10 years ago, when Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration. No. Really? So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Ugh, sometimes I really don't want to grow up. There's more. For 10 years after that, while he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be his stand-in, to impersonate the inspector. To impersonate Gregsy? But why? I have absolutely no idea. Ugh, Ginny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Runo. I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. And that means he has ties to Professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you? But back to St. Sinners, then. Oh, hey, Saroon, welcome. At least there are 2 hospitals, St. Sinners and St. Bartholomew's, yeah. I remember Bartholomew's being mentioned. Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows. Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today. If anyone has anything to hide, my special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight. I shoot them with lead. Turns the truth. That water pistol? It's stuff full of piping hot extra special blend of mine. Then I'm quite sure it'll be very effective. I'd better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still. Let's go and see what we can find out. Yes. Just to be safe, I'm going to check the blackboard. It's probably going to say the same thing again, but just in case. It's the same thing. Yep, because I can skip it. This looks like a duck. Nothing new on the mask. Alright, time to move. Right. I guess... Hospital bed. Perhaps we should leave Mr. Vigil in peace for a little while. He's only just been admitted. Okay, fine. I won't go there. I'll go back to my office. Oh, nothing. I guess the Lord Chief Justice. Why are these closed off? Oh, hi again. British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice Office. No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear? Perfectly. Perfectly. It's Kazuma-sama. Defying Lord Strongheart by the sounds of it. He never did know when to back down. On your way now, Asogi. My lord. Kazuma. He was so sad. He left without saying a word. Not even a hello or a goodbye. Yes, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. I wanted Van Zeek's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries? As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. We're currently 2 hours, 55 minutes and 41 seconds. 42. 43. Why am I making Strongy meanie? I'm not meaning to. He's just angry. Though we must have solved everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo. In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zeeks is the Reaper? I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago in that fateful closed trial that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary. I feel like I'm doing his voice wrong. I think there's something wrong with my throat. It has been a bit off today. Let me just try something. Let me try it again. It was in fact 10 years ago that in that fateful closed trial that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. But that's awful! The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days. Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe. The mic caught all of that. That's great. Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. I shan't speak lest I spoil. And the people believe Lord Van Zeeks was responsible? He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident. So you must have a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long rung of coincidences. Well, the Reaper's true identity may very well be revealed by this trial. And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated. I spit my tongue. Ow! Is that why it's a Crow's trial? Precisely. This country hasn't had a closed trial for 10 years. So the last one was the Professors. The trial of Genshin Asogi? How do you know that name? Correct. Actually, we've heard that originally you were going to prosecute the trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. Van Zieks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And there we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zieks had condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. I really cannot do this guy's voice today. I don't know what's going on. Do I have a cold? Again? Laughs in future knowledge? Don't you laugh in the future? Or cry. Did you say that what goes around comes around? I wonder if Van Ziek's gonna die. I just had that thought. However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well. Kazuma is? I like my organizations to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here. They're for metaphors. If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps. Hey, Matt. Got work in an hour or 90 minutes, so we stay as much as possible. Okay, cool. You made a few random shot-in-the-dark predictions. Some of you got right. I make a lot of predictions, and somehow a lot of them seem to come out right. I sometimes try to not make them, because if I do, I guess the entire game. What do you mean? Not something with which you need concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. He takes the stand. And now I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours. What? We didn't speak for 3 hours? Oh my, that's a long time. And I hold you entirely responsible. Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes. I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asogi? Discussions between the defense and prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go! You can find him in his office. He has an office? Oh, thank you. I'm sure pointing them out won't help because he says so much off the cuff. I've been trying since he started the first trilogy. It's happened before. Well, let's go see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo. Kazuma may be my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. Just go, go, hey, brother, what's up? I've come here to see what the stitch is about. I'm just looking around just in case Shows is somewhere here. He just shows up anywhere. The location has been added. Prison. There it is. Not that one, this one. Oh, he took Van Ziek's offices. Okay. Prosecutor office. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor, Japanese style, in that dark corner. It's his habit to see... Oh, I don't know why I had a problem reading that. It's his habit to sit Seiza style whenever he's working. Well, it looks like our journey here was wasted. The prosecutor appears to be out. Perhaps we should discuss things with another prosecutor we know first. Me! I am the prosecutor now! Look at me. I am the prosecutor now. That's a particular note. Let's see what we have here. Why are people talking about the table? What? Everyone calm down! Mr. Naruhodo, it would be very underhanded to glean information from Kazuma-sama's office while he's absent. Huh? You would let me do it if it was Van Zeek's. Stop fawning over a dead guy. He doesn't love you. Fall for me instead, Mr. Naruhodo. We should wait until he's here before we start nosing around. We should do it right in front of him. We need him to see what we're doing. Oh, of course, yes. She doesn't take any nonsense when it comes to Kazuma, does she? So can I look at nothing then? Yeah, it's not going to let me look at anything. Well, that sucks. Can I at least look at the bats? No. Alright, guess I'll come back later. Perhaps we should leave Mr. Vigil in peace for a little while. He's only been admitted. Okay, I guess I'll go to prison then. There he is, reading again. Local prison, cell 1. Oh! Iris is here now. She was here this whole time, but she's just off screen. I didn't mean to click there. Lord Van Zeeks is reading. Look. He doesn't seem to want, like, he wants visitors, does he? But he must have noticed that we're here, surely. Yeah, but it's always the trope of where if you're, like, brought up together, if you're a guy and a girl in every single story, you get to come together because you know each other so well. And then you truly become one of the family because you've married into it at that point. Why does Clint look like he's so slay all the time? I don't know. I was just colouring in a book off screen. But he must have noticed we're here, surely. We're just like staring at him, waiting for him to respond. What do you Nipponese want? There's no ways to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? I could just go home and let you suffer through this on your own. Perhaps not. Hmm? I apologize. So what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo? I should call him by your name. Lord Van Zeek speaking earnestly. Oh, the fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow. This does feel very, very strange. I must say, I was impressed. Oh, well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see, yes. It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese, to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I ran out of breath there. I suppose. It's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? Sad music. Why is it never happy music in the prison? 14 people, wow, welcome! You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper. because it helped reduce the amount of serious crimes that took place in London. It's keeping quiet and playing the part that benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing. Then why would I choose to say anything? But the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. And that was just the most recent of many attempts on your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about all of this. Someone is using you. Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him. Or rather, expose the organization. Is this kind of like the Owl organization from like Batman? Makes sense, he does have bats and he is a man. A whole organization? It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. Yours says 18? Wow. Mine says 13. It's gone back down. It was 16 a second ago, but welcome, welcome. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case, which can only mean that somebody at Scotland Yard is involved. Someone at... You can't mean... It's Sholmes the whole time. It's taken me many years, but I've finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias Gregson. No. Gregson, the Reaper? Okay. Wow. Speedrunners, hello, welcome. Grey Ace Attorney 2 is my favorite. I like them. I like the trilogy. I like the old games. Already 100 messages. Nice. So the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you intended to expose him as the Reaper? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It is a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there's no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization. I don't believe it. Are you saying that Gregsy, that he was behind all those awful crimes meeting their... or criminals? Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself. Oh. He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassination. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Well, that's because I played the original 3DS versions. Yeah, I played up to... I played up to the Dual Destinies on 3DS. They've only recently been started playing all on PC now because they've been porting them over. Which is where Mr. Vigil came in, posing as the inspector. Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper, but the room he rents on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Gregson would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we don't actually know who carried the killings then? Or carried out the killings? Actually, I do have a name. You... what? Well, if you can name the man, you have the true identity of the Reaper already, then. Or, if I can name the woman. Oh. She's a young woman by the name of Assassin. Oh my god. Basically, assassin. It's Assassin. It's kind of trying to mix it between assassin and the old word for assassin, if you go by, like, Assassin's Creed, the first one. Been with 2 years now that you started. Not to mention I studied Japanese in 2022, hence why I can play Japanese games with no problem. Oh man, you're lucky. I don't understand any Japanese. I only know like the basic ones from when they say it, you know, like arigato. Is it konbanwa? That's one thing I remember from reading a book. Wait, what? Shin? Miss Assassin. The true name of a terrifying killer I know only too well. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then, just when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan and conviction, the mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey? I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense because she wasn't able to leave Japan. But there were deaths. There was the death of the Irish guy in the carriage. But she wasn't there at the time. Mr. Naruhodo, this is perhaps isn't the place to discuss. No, of course not. We can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson. Because Iris doesn't know, and it's very likely that the man was her father. You're good with many languages? Oh, cool. Fluent in German. Wow. If you can speak German, you'll probably be able to do the German characters in this game a lot more than I can. A lot better. Magnus McGilded, that was it. Yes. Thank you, Edward. And welcome. Assassin. I should let father know at once. Yes, I agree. I guess we're going back to the hotel soon. Kazuma, isn't it? Kazuma Sogi. You say he's a friend of yours. My best friend. He's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merits. I have nothing but respect for him. Yes, I understand that only the very best students are selected for such opportunities. How this national assassin was killed by a random journalist because she was casually racist, insulting to him. Yeah. And I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father. Genshin Asogi, the professor. It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man as pawns in politics, in economics, in war. In many ways, Asogi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. I see. But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zieks was a noble and an outstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damn Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? Ah, Rafashon's being mean to me. I guess I just have to ban him. Nah, I'm good. In spite of having once saved mine. He saved your life? How did that happen? It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. Japanese is decent, and for anyone who wants to know why I can play Japanese game without fence translations, because games use entry-level hiragana and katakana. Oh. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. So Clint Van Zieks had already been killed at this point then. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. Of course, at the point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us! Ooh. It's young Van Zieks, and a guy with a sword. We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scars. Clint was not only from a noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I'd been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Zieks, all right, we've got him. I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. He's just a little guy. Yeah. It's Genshin. Yeah, Genshin. I was just like, and a guy that looks like a guy. But just when I thought my time had come. I haven't given this guy a voice because he's never had a voice before. I'll just do like a Kazuma, but not as dramatic. If I let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me. It was Asogi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. Did he cut the bullet with a sword? After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. Ballarov, for a second there, I thought you said Genshin Amogus. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. A guy that looks like a guy is amazing. Hey, it's not my fault. 2 days later, they arrested him. On suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever, the Professor. And he said the prosecutor. How awful for you. All at once, I lost the brother I revered and the foreign friend I held in such high regard. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. He's gonna be like, I have enough talking now, I need to go back to my book. That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me. The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are. I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper, giving assassination orders to Giselle Brett. Mr. Naruhodo, let's go and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie. Hooray! Hooray! Yes, all right. Let's head back to the Waterloo Hotel, then. Bye, Van Zeeks. Thanks for information. Genshin Asogi was ejected. You think Jack the Ripper is upset about that? I think he's dead by this point. Where's Sherlock Holmes? He disappeared somewhere. Not entirely sure. There it is. The 2nd of November. Great Waterloo Hotel. Foyer. I thought it yesterday, and I think it again today. This place is so princely. It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'll think the same tomorrow, too. My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room, though, wouldn't you say? I don't know who this is yet. Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure. Oh, here's you. Okay. Father. Ooh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely. What a charming young lady. And you are? Ah, really? So you're the author of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, are you? That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know. Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly with much interest. The Japanese version calls him by Sherlock Holmes. Oh, okay. So they give him his proper name. I guess it's just because of Across the Sea they have to, like, make it so it doesn't copyright fringe. I think I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father. Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explain that bright look in your eyes. You wouldn't be smiling so early if you knew just how bright she is, believe me. And now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery, and after I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Although, I'm fairly sure you omitted by Kazuma on the end there. Oh, no, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. Really? You didn't miss a step against the Sogi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary. It's very kind of you to say so. And really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I'd been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Naruhodo, I trust you haven't forgotten. Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you? But first, we have something to report, Father. They had to change it because the Doyle estate would not budge on copyright. Makes sense. Wasn't there also an issue with the people that were doing, was it Mr. Natsume? Well, you were saying it before, it was like they had to make it so then he hated all British people or something. Of course. Shall we take tea while we discuss matters further? I wonder where Judge Jigoku has got to. I was waiting for a second there. It took a while to come up. Naruhodo means I see in Japanese. Yeah, I know about that one. Yeah, I think I mentioned it on like the first time we streamed it. I was like, wait a minute, isn't that mean like I see or something like that? And I was like, yeah, about the Reaper. Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey? I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after the case when the visiting student had already returned home. Yeah, that was it. As long as he hated London. Lord Van Zeeks was who he was in the dock. Lord Van Zeeks was who he was. What? Lord Van Zeeks, who was in the dock today. I don't know why I was having trouble with that. That was Barak, the younger brother of Clint Van Zeeks, I believe. That's right. And he's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard, but the truth is, it wasn't him behind all those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else. I see. So what you're saying is, there's been a professional killer at work here. Exactly. Someone by the name of Assassin, in fact. I beg your pardon? Did you say Assassin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend? Oh no, a friend of yours was killed? Professor Migotober, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor is talking about, Dr. John H. Wilson. And that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway. I like half the cast crew. You think Eugene knew Gregson? Maybe. I'm seeing like the viewers like fluctuating up and down. It was at 16, then it went down to 5, then it went back up to 16, now 10. I don't know if that's YouTube side. If anyone's having any issues, you can try the Twitch stream because that might be a bit more stable. But you know, they're just the other people that are on YouTube won't be able to read you. I have just remembered something. Biscuits. This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits. That is rather out of the blue. She's doing this deliberately. I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris? Oh, yes. You just tried to leave me behind. So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great detective shows. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father? It gave me 7 in a row the other day? Jeez. No! It's not English. It's not UK English for cookies. Biscuits and cookies are different. Biscuits are hard. They're crunchy. You bite them, they're like, Cookies are like the soft things, like a chocolate chip cookie. How dare you blaspheme in my court? I'm sorry, Matt. I know you're not been here long, but you triggered my Britishness. Her father, Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during the time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial University 4 years ago. But he was murdered last year by Dazale Brett. Yeah, cookies can be soft or hard, but biscuits are usually hard most of the time. Unless you dunk them in, like, milk or something. Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case. I was in the production of the 39 Steps last year and made 2 types of British biscuits for certain scenes in the show. Oh! I know you were part of production for things. Oh, cool. 39 Steps. That vaguely sounds familiar. I don't think I've watched it, but I think I've heard the name. Tell me this. Is it true that the only UK cuisine you guys have is beans? No. There's potatoes. Like fish and chips. You're gonna laugh, but it's curry as well. You know, like Indian curry. I think some of the dishes that Indian meals have didn't exist until it came to Britain. I think it was like the korma, I think was one of them. I'd have to look it up. You love TGAA, you just wish British people were real. They are real. What am I? Am I a ghost? It's based on a Hitchcock film. Oh, okay. I was know nothing about that case. But it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So, it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names, after all. No, they're not! I have never once in my life ever met someone called Wilson. John as a first name, yes, but not a Wilson. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes. We're back with cinnamon biscuits. Ooh, they smell delicious, Iris. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea you serve here. But don't you, Susie? People mean about the UK only have beans. Yeah, I know. I mean, we do have a lot of beans. We do have a lot of toast. I think I had beans on toast last week, actually. Wilson is pretty common, but John is like the 13th most common name. Yeah, like, for me, I've never met a person with Wilson as a last name. It'd be cool if I did. The Turnabout stage plays. I have seen clips of that on YouTube. It does look fun. Half of your family, including yourself, have John in your names. Wow. You're doxing yourself. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I've heard that it can be used most as a middle name as well, but I've seen Johns all over the place. Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris. Judge Gogoku, where is he? I haven't seen Judge Gogoku for a while, have you? Guilty! I need to remember how I did his voice. And that guilty is still ringing in my ears. Oh no, now that you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he'll have gone to explore the great exhibition. That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Gogoku having once been in the dock himself. Ah, yes. It was all tied up with that accursed trial. The closed trial of Kazuma's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and actually managed to break the witness's stand. Oh my! What did he do? Like, destroy it with his fist? He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire for which he was charged. Oh dear. Although, it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. Oh, thank goodness. Ah, yes, talking of Seishiro, I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Please. Death flags. I'm getting death flags because we're getting pictures, having fun. One of these are going to die. Oh, what a lovely picture. It certainly seems to shout we've arrived in Britain. The commemorative photograph has been entered into the court record. He smashed it barehanded? Jesus. And none of us have any idea what was coming when we took it, did we? If you were to visit the UK, it would be to visit London and take pictures of Big Ben. Oh, okay. Yeah, I went to London once. I live in the UK, but I went there once for like one of my birthdays. It's interesting. Very crowded. No, that's so true. I went on the Millennium Eye. They said the Millennium Falcon. The London Eye. It was alright. So, you mentioned a favour that you'd like to ask me. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it'll be all over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan. You want me to... What? Father? What's the meaning of this? Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense. Oh, you mean... The Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I've read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs. You need to become important. Become the next emperor. I forgot that Brits consider smaller trips bigger ones and got confused. That and France you would visit. I'm kind of hearing things about France at the moment. I don't know if I would go. I mean, I don't usually go across countries anyway. Mostly because of what I heard about what happened with the, what was it? The Olympic Games with the water being like so polluted that people got sick. Eight hours trip to 3 states away. Jeez, man. So, you'd be leaving then, Runo? But then, what am I supposed to do, Father? I abandoned you into London, Mr. Susato. I am no longer your father. The UK is tiny? Excuse you. We're bigger than... Are we bigger than Australia? I'm not sure. I think we're about the same size, actually. Used to drive 12 hours a day to visit your grandparents? What? You came here to serve as Hisoki's judicial assistant. Oh, yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with this situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susato. And I trust your judgment. In this matter also. Father. Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest. But I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yes, alright. But isn't Texas bigger than anywhere? That's the whole thing about Texas, is that everything is big in Texas. So even if it's like smaller, they just say it's still bigger. You won't leave, will you, Bruno? Ah, but that you're talking about the size of the country. I'm talking like, oh, maybe I'm not, but I'm just making this up now to make it be even bigger, make me have a big brain. Like, I'm talking about like actual colonized parts of the country. Because like, doesn't Australia only have like 3 cities, major cities? I mean, there's is it Brisbane? There's the other 2, which I can't remember the name of right now. The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so where does that leave me? Have I been to Japan before? No. I kind of want to visit, but I wouldn't want to go on my own. I'm also kind of iffy on how Japan sort of treats foreigners, especially lately. And that's not to say that's not without reason. There have been people that have been stupid about what they do. Like, oh, I'm just going to go to this place and take all the stuff that I'm not supposed to take. Well, if you'll excuse me now, I needed to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashi. Take a geography class? I took geography when I was in school. I don't need to take it again, and we didn't learn anything about other countries. At least, not that much. We didn't learn about Australia. We learned about our own country. Of course, Father. Thank you. To West Virginia to see the Mothman statue. It's nice up there this time of year. Ah. Is that the Mothman statue that has, like, the weirdly, like, really defined butt? I look forward to the next month's installment, Miss Wilson. Oh, good. And please do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We can entertain you. If she takes out the gun, we can entertain you. Bang, bang. I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Mr. Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home? You know, Kazuma-sama was always meant to a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this. Yes, no doubt. Asashi. Of course, it's so obvious. Oh, it's Sholmes. How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Mr. Sholmes, has he been following us the whole time? Hurley, where have you been? Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question. I didn't notice you at all. No matter, no matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Japan? You mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who? Well, my father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself. I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. What does that mean? I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes. There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to have this sent. I will, but what is it? No questions at this time, if you please, Mr. Zato. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Sholmes? Which isn't exactly... Now then! Just completely blows past it. You may be surprised to learn that I'm a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind settees and eavesdrops on other people's conversations. You were just doing that. So what's this joining us for tea meant? I leave this sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows. And he's gone. Wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace. And he left the unpaid bill for his tea behind too. I must catch up with Father at the telegram office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab, straight away. Okay, I guess I'm on my own then. And there was me thinking everyone would be clamouring to pay Mr. Sholmes a bill. I was kind of hoping that we get left behind and then all of a sudden we get, like, attacked. Because we're on our own. Okay, I guess I can go back here now. Or do I have to go to the telegram office? Doesn't seem like there's one. Alright, to the hospital bed. This place got cleaned up a little. St. Sinners Hospital, Ward 3. This is the ward where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Oh, hi. Oh, God, I have to bring back the Scottish accent. Oh, okay. If I can. The lawyer. Hello again. Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil? Oh, yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought up all upon this myself. Please, don't think like that. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well. You mean about your dismissal? Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me generously for acting as his stand-in. He's clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. What if it was TGAA where everyone was the same? Well, everything was the same, but Vigil was Virgil from the hit game Devil May Cry. Starring Virgil from Devil May Cry. Irish, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter anyway. Somehow I always end up going Irish or Scottish either way. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then? I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but... It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago, it wasn't me! I swear it! I swear it's true! Oh, Mr. Vigil. I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but... If possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? I want to. I need to get all of this all on my chest. I want someone to tell me what I should have done. Foolishness, Dante, foolishness! Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. It was investigating something that even Scotland Yard didn't know about. Or about. Details the Reaper's marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. You pretend to be their inspector and carry out investigation on his behalf? Oh no, never. A common peddler, street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper investigation. Why did he do that weird shimmy upwards? That's weird. All I would do is go out to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. But just something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was there. So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident? Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very local about my presence. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters. The abort was deliberate. Yes, it was. Yes. So, you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud? That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. What I need is that I need, what's his name? Jimmy Limmel? The comedian. He's also doing streaming at the moment, like for a while. He could do the accents for me. He's great. Hoo-ha, smash 4, black flashbacks. Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though. And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. It was at midnight on the 17th of June, 10 years ago, that was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it? Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect a plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was. Barclay was renowned for having the highest security in prison in the country. It's also a bank. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. I'm so sorry for anyone that actually speaks Scottish or Irish. I'm like ruining the accent. I'm sorry. I have a feeling I know what the loophole was now. The coffins in which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of the convicted convict, or condemned convict, the body was taken into its coffin for immediate burial in the Lowgate Cemetery behind the prison. The chief warder first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. Scottish. Yeah. What do you mean? Francisco? I did great on Francisco. What are you talking about? You foolish fool of a foolish fool. I don't know what you're talking about. This is not Francisca. I'd have to go back and play the game again so I can do it. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find the lone coffin as usual. But the procedure was that I would sign the paperwork having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No. I didn't think any of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I could only imagine that Rasogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery. Presumably there would have been enough air inside to breathe for long. So in the early hours of following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder? A wooden onesie, oh god. I'm afraid I don't really know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Then why did they kick you out then? If they had no proof? Obviously, you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, after being condemned to death as he was, any conflict I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by the elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant that this a potentially disabling case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. He was the most likely suspect? Yeah, but I mean, without evidence, you can't just fire someone just because. It's like, oh, he might have done it. But then, you know, I get that some employers would be like, oh, this guy has the wrong mustache. I don't like it. Kick him out. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a carer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day. Oh, it's actually animated. Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose life were taken, were you really responsible? I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. He says another human. Didn't say multiple. Didn't say like multiple people, just one. The following day, the closed trial took place and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That's me saying that, but whatever. That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. Okay. 1 second, I gotta do something. Do something? Shh! Shush me! And then bam, there we go. Sorry about that. Because I'm streaming on both Twitch and YouTube, I kind of have to like split my attention between both of them. Annoyingly, I frequently get like bots in my chat on Twitch, which is like cheap viewers for stream, and I'm like, no, go away. I should really enable like the default bot, but I can't. I don't know how to do that yet. I need to look into it. I wish you could put images in chat because no emoji can convey the unhinged emotions I feel for this game. Visual is looking disappointedly at chat. Yes. As I said, it was on the night following his trial after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells when I looked into Asogi's. I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, here you can actually see the mark on his neck when he puts his head like this. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back. But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen his will when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true. But there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. You encounter those bots when you streamed as well as earlier. Oh, you stream as well? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just me or if it's like a pandemic of bots going around. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Yeah, I can't see that one. That one says face turquoise covering eyes. It doesn't show me. But I can see some of them. I believe you were putting emotes before and I could see those, but I don't know if those were Twitch. Of course. He'd been convicted for killing 5 members of the aristocracy. But at the same time, he was a guest of honor, a guest in our country from the Emperor of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days should be needlessly uncomfortable. And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed? That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper. So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what happened to him? Yes, but that was the long and short of it. I have no idea where he obtained that paper. It was toilet paper. And your writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his back and then he pleaded with me. What did you do behind your back? Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. All right then. What's on the paper? Our last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. Interesting. How can a will be a weapon? Well, I mean, if you leave anything to someone, they might have something inside it that's like information or something. Like, I leave you my house, and inside the house is a notebook that has all the information of what's happened up to that point. So I decided to pretend to see nothing. And I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without a trace. What? What do you mean, it vanished? It would seem that this isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will. Ooh. I was the only person who saw Sogi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Asogi's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warders gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell, and they were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. To poor Kazuma-sama. And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? He ate it! Ugh. Imagine eating your last will and testament. I take my last will with me, and no one shall have it. The will, I mean. That's right, although I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Caden was livid. He was screaming. It can't have disappeared completely. That doesn't quite make sense, though, does it? In what way? Well, how did he know about it? Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prisoner governor know to look for it? Oh, yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew, but I certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. He said it was the Asogi Papers. It's his manifesto! The Asogi Papers. I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory. And he said mind. I'd forgotten all of this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful. The Amogus papers, oh god. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... No, not at all. Thank you again. But what will become of you now? Well, impersonating a police officer is certainly a criminal offence, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. But you were being paid to do that from an actual police officer, so would that matter? I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. Forever. Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? The Asogi papers. I'd be very grateful if you make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I remembered. Good point, actually. The officer that did pay him can't testify to that effect, so I guess that makes sense now. Good point. Well, it would be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death. I best I go ask the warden about it. With the man, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder. Perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about the document that Kazuma's father's left behind, it would be Mr. Vigil's governor. And then we know it precisely where we must go. Back to the Barclay prison. Look at him sitting all sad. A new location? There's a new location? I mean, I guess it just means it unlocked it again. I wonder if he can use this. Like, he puts like a cigar in there and he cuts the end off, or he puts a carrot. Like, he wants to chop some carrots, he just puts it through. You don't know what to draw? Draw Van Zeeks in a swimsuit, I guess. Barclay Prison Governor's Office. How long have we been streaming for? Oh, we've still got half an hour. Och, back again, are you? Yes. Hello. I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh, Vigil? Yes, luckily. Well, anywho, the laddie doesn't work near here no more, so your case is naught to do with Barclay. Bar off. Okay then. He uses it for carrot, yeah. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong day about that. About the... Oh, yes, of course. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. Aye, Kimmer, you can very well. So how about a wee handcuff biscuit? Oh, they really are like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too. So, what brought you down here today? Well, there's something we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something. Imagine if he just, like, stands there, he drops the cup of coffee and the biscuit. Did not know say. Gregson's death is not to do with things that might have happened to Barclay. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not fort over with the relevant details. His expression changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. I just realized he's dressed like a barber. Like an old-timey barber. That's why he has a comb. That murderer's botched execution, and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, aye. A shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner had confirmed the death of the man after the execution in Courtney Seath. And my chief warder at the time vigil was in charge of the whole affair. Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it. The rascal wouldn't say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs? Oh, how can I say no? You can have too much iron in your diet. But Mr. Vigil handed his dismissal notice as a result of what happened. He was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I didn't like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? He's being infected by him! Of course I can't shun all the responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. With Gregson having been murdered and Dr. Sy forbidden from having any visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. I know it's Scythe, but because of his accent, it makes me say Seath. And I wouldn't dream of sending you packing without Kimmer. Here, take a hand for a cuff or two. Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't that become anemic? I suppose, if there's anybody who might still care about what happened back then. It'd be that lass from the forensic division, Maria Gorey. Maria? Gorey? Aye, Scythe's daughter. She didn't have no more, it's just the one. But the wee bairn's fallen in her mom's steps. You didn't have to ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah. I can't remember what I did for a voice. Mama, what is this? Ah, where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Scythe's daughter, Maria Gorey. We could do with talking with her. So, she's Dr. Scythe's daughter, but her surname is Gorey? Aye, there was some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mum working with the bodies of folks who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I can't understand it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. Perhaps. Anyhow, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and the coroner responsible for the incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her man's story about cutting up bodies. There's even the rumour that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Well then, perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from 10 years ago. Aye, I'd say they're fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Gorey herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget about the whole professor business. Can't you gee up this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry, I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you just stay away, no? Just leave me alone and didn't come back here, eh? I don't know why, but the way they write it makes it a lot easier to do the accent. it's just like, yes, that's how they speak. That's how they write it. Yeah. I should come to know about Ken about that, laddie. There's so many folk here in the prison who heard of those papers. Well, I can't tell him Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. Huh. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asogi's. Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Limb Jimmy. Is it me? Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, it's mysteriously vanished from the cell, didn't it? Heavens no! You're off your half-cocked there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Well, let me just have a wee hawk around here. I'm sure I can find it. Aye, here you are. See? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush. Of course I can't read a word of Japanese squiggles, but I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers. Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. It's fake. I bet it's going to be a fake. Or it's written in lemon, so then it's invisible ink. After all of the stramash of that slicer of the execution, we sent the man's possession back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it. I know it's calligraphy, it's the accent that's getting to me, because I can't say calligraphy while doing an accent and be like, calligraphy? I think we ought to make a record for this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case. The Asogi papers have been added to the court record. Woo. Yes, it's the only weapon I have left. One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Well, those papers are now to do with Gregson's death. I'd prefer it if you didn't make no mention of them outside this office, or rather. I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of the government. I understand. If you do, I'll have to kick you out of the country. Alright, let me have a look at these papers. Oh gosh, I was hoping to look at them. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London will be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is my deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Interesting. Alright, time to go! Alright, spoke to Vigil. We've been fishing now, let's go pay husband a summer visit. Well, she's saying this, so I assume something's different. Alright, Matt Menino, thanks for joining by. Hope to see you in the future streams. There he is. He's on the wrong side. That's the Reaper's side. Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be too long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? And that you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign country courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama. I'm truly happy for you. And I am truly thankful for you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. I will never call you by your full name, by your proper name. You do not matter to me. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you two and I to shake up the British legal system to a little together. This isn't quite how I envisioned it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Susanna-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Gigoku. And about what happened with your father. And then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice. Why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, my love. I'm only saying that because of chat, what that's going on about. Right, now can I look at this? This Lord Van Zeek's incredibly stylish desk. It's not my style, though. No, I noticed you've been working at the little table on the rock floor, kneeling down Slazer style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Van Zeek when I first saw it. I find it the most comfortable way to work. I can't do it, even for a couple of minutes of sitting with my legs folded under me, they start to go tingly. Don't exaggerate, Ryunosuke. We both know you can't manage a minute. Lord Van Zeek's fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles all neatly lined up. Yes, he's extremely particular about all of that. He has a strict regime of everything, from the storage of the casks to the bottling of their contents. Gosh, he must have a really tough time of it being his apprentice. Actually, no. Oh? He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact. Talk about weird. He doesn't want to be poisoned. What's weird about that? Do you know who the man in the portrait is? Oh, why would I? What? But you're Lord Van Zeek's apprentice. Yes, apprentice, not a friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with. But it's Clint, his brother Clint. Ooh, what the? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. It's a little mini-me. Whee! What? You disturbed the bats, did you? Fitting companions of Lord Van Zeek's, wouldn't you say? Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think. Perhaps you have to be like birds to attain rank in the judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. No, they're mammals. Clint really just be looking like... I can see that emo, the smiley face. How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing. Sorry. Just thinking out loud. A barrel full of laughs, this guy. Casks floor to ceiling, just like the last time we were here. Hallowed barrels, I suppose. They're arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week, they are all taken out and put back in order. What? Every week? Lord Van Zeeks can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. A vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide. That's the trouble. Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge. Actually, no. Oh? He considers the task too important to entrust to anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own. So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court then. This... Van Zeeks must be like stupidly strong to carry all of these barrels out on his own. I bet he just like takes off his shirt and he's like this big buff man underneath. Oh, I was a bit too off the mark. Oh, is that it? Okay, guess that's it. Back to questioning him. Actually, no, I need to show you my band. I kept it. Kazuma, this is your armband. Actually, I think it's yours now. Sorry? You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. And now you've chosen to take up that path in life. Careful, you'll kill Balor after that image. It's like he takes off his cape, but he pulls a bit too hard, so he pulls off his shirt as well. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you, or more proud. Kazuma. So you keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a prosecutor now. That armband would have no meaning for me. But that doesn't mean you're going to be a prosecutor forever. Just for now. Well, if you're sure. Thank you, my friend. I was shocked when I found out they were related to the case. The Red-Headed League, I mean. Personally, it wasn't their plan to swindle everyone that surprised me. It was the fact that so many red-headed people gathered from all over London that day. A certain great detective being among them. I expect those two are in the cell as we speak, wishing they'd never dreamt up their little plan. Or maybe they're busy plotting their next one? Kazuma, what do you think of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence. The courtroom. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Well, this is what we do in every game. We just present evidence to everyone. What do you think about this random woman? What do you think about the puppet? Balroth, I don't know what you typed because it's completely blank. There we go, it's a skull. It took its time showing up, though. Oh, whoops. I meant to present this. The Reaper. At last, I get to take my revenge. Kazuma. Lord Van Zeeks isn't responsible for your father's death, and he's not the Reaper. He's the defendant and deserving of a fair trial. You mean like the one my father had? It's a closed trial now, too. The conditions are exactly as they were 10 years ago. And even if it ruffles some feathers, I have a plan to show that man for what he really is. What happened to just showing, you know, the truth? That was... We were literally, this last stream, you were like that. You were like, oh, we gotta find the truth. And find who really killed my father. And now you're like, no, I gotta choose, it was this guy. Kazuma. Candelabrum? You've got nothing to say. Kazuma, look at how young he is here. Don't you want to be nice to him now? This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something of a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there was some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gory. It wouldn't be trouble you, Kazuma-sama. We'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. But what if it gets in the way of your revenge? Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery? By Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Woo! Just gonna skim for anything else that might come up. You were wrong, Rapatron. I could show him the thing. The autopsy report, and he would respond to that. Kazuma, what do you think of these firecrackers? Or this dead guy? About the same. I wonder if he's going to react to the picture. Like, wait a minute, are they here? Nope, nothing here. I wonder what he's going to say about the Will and Testament. Nothing. Really? There's no reaction to this? It's actually for him. Fine. Guess we'll talk. It's getting on for a year now since what happened on the SS Buria. We were heading across the ocean from Japan to Great Britain when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just a voice in my head. You have something to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain, your task awaits you there. I probably should have put some echo on that to make it like an actual thought thing. For a minute there in Valoroth, I misread that. It says that you were going to draw him chocolate or something. Draw him like chocolate. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Sorry, I'm stretching. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself amongst the disembarking passengers and went ashore. And then I walked to Great Britain. And then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city. So I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose? That's right. And on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on the cargo ship. Eventually, after calling out countless ports, I arrived at Dover. And that must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to do to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world? Of course, I had no idea why I had moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zeek's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. I'm just having a thought now. What would it be like to have amnesia? Like, would you still be you? Or would you be a different person? And even when you remember the memories and everything, would you still be the same person? Or would you be a new person? And they took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. And that's when I had the second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about the Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Yes, I did. Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Remember here when he wasn't as sharp or as messy of a hair? And he'd wear a headband and he was cool? Mark my words, Ryunosuke, I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. Look at the little baby. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. In my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unwavering sense of justice. He lost the source of his power. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san. Oh my. Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education in Yume. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. And then one day a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. When I read in that letter, it changed my entire life. What did it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name. Oh no, who would send a letter that many years later? As a result of that letter, I found out what had happened from me all those years ago. Been hidden. Was it just Van Ziest just being like a petty guy and he's just like, I hate the Asogis. I'm going to send this letter and show how angry I am about my brother's death? Presumably the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it would have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. I mean, that's nice and all, but was he ever going to tell you the truth at one point? He should do. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jugoku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. You know what would be cool? Is if he actually is the killer. They build it all up and try to make you think he isn't, but then you find out he really was. That would be a cool twist. But they're probably not going to do that, because he's the father of this guy. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was. It's clear the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Barak Van Zieks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done at the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. What? Oh, this guy is a prosecutor. He put a person in jail and he was actually a criminal. This guy should die for that. Huh? But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. Okay, Kazuma. You don't know yet. Search for the truth. The thing is, you need to search for the truth, but not for your truth. You need to search for the real truth, whether you like it or not. Ryunosuke. I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. The Karma is said to have been forged by a master swordmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip of the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karuma, is a symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Karuma. It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was visiting a student here in London, or visiting students, he had his sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now, too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. And now he can't draw it. Because it's stuck, because his father's will is against what he's doing. So when he tries to draw it, it doesn't open. And then when Naruhodo tries to open it, it opens normal. It's like, oh, you've been chosen. I can't believe it. Even my father has turned against me. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zieks given what happened. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Is that what you wanted to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? And never mind. The man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the Inspector was killed. I'm gonna prove as much in court tomorrow. By whatever means necessary. You forging evidence. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you'll do what you have to do as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow, then, in the Old Bailey. Oh, for a minute there, I thought it was going to fade to black. It was taking a while. All right. Forensics Laboratory. Customer prosecutor. I never imagined it possible. Do you know, I don't believe we visited this place for some time. It was the last case we visited. Cesaro. Dr. Gory has taken Dr. Seiss' place as Chief Scalpel Wielder. Chief Scalpel Wielder, okay. Oh, things have changed a bit. It's all pink now, and there's toys. Forensics Laboratory. This place really is creepy, isn't it? Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air. Well, being a dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris, do you think we could change the subject? Someone's sharpening a sword. What was that? Why does it sound like it's getting further and further away? Look at the little tiny chair. Dr. Gory? Why has she got a butcher's knife? So it's... What? Sorry about that. What? That noise before. I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep it perfectly keen edge on them. Right. When following the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel. Cuts like cheese. Wouldn't you like a demonstration? Oh, yes, please. I'd love to see. Then, I think you'll do nicely. Huh? No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time? Was that a tut? Well, we came here to ask questions, so... I wish that actually had sound to it. Do you think she's interested in lobotomies? Maybe. Look at all these bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones are labeled highly toxic. Ugh, that's worrying, because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh, yes. And they actually say salt and pepper on them. It's to see if they're actually alive. Get the pepper to make them sneeze. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by the death. By the dead. Nothing about the toys? Or maybe I clicked on the wrong thing. This looks different to before. Of course, Mr. Naruhodo. Mrs. Gory is a young maiden. She has all sorts of charming little dolls and the like around her place of work. Look. Oh, yes, you're right. Perhaps she's not so strange after all. They're how I practice. Sorry? Mama always says that operations and dissections require speed and accuracy. So I take out my needle and thread and stitch 3 new dolls every day. Right. I used to make livers or kidneys or intestines. But Mama told me they make something more friendly instead. That's quite different to what I'd imagined. Interesting. There's the skulls. Well, look at this. What a magnificent display case. The cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen, and intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they? It's 10 people. Pardon? It's made from the bones of 10 different people, all mixed together. Some of my best work. I was admiring the case, actually. The scary skeleton inside is something I intend to ignore as best as I can. You're strange. I wonder who is the strangest. Yes. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. You can't mount them. They're not horses. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like that Jeruma doll on display in your office. Nothing over there. Saw a table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each's isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. That's Mama's dissection table. It's too high for me, though. It is? If I fell from that height in my sleep, it would really hurt. You would sleep on the table? What, you mean you sleep in here? Autopsy work is very involved. It's usually too late to think about going home when I'm finished. But I have bad dreams when I sleep here, and I always end up falling onto the floor. So I'd like to exchange that table for a lower one. Maybe you should just go home? Home? You destroyed that when you sent my mother to prison. Alright, let's talk. We have actually met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember. You're not dead yet. What? So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that. Well, good. Dr. Cypher's some scruples at least. Oh dear. It looks like she's not interested in talking to us. For the time being, anyway. For the time being? You mean until we die? I hope that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen? I don't know, maybe if we stab her, make her a corpse or something. That's very dark, never mind. I got very dark there, what? Could I ask your opinion about this? Don't forget, you're responsible for putting my mama in jail. Oh, she actually bring it up. Why should I help you? Wow. Alright, probably what it's going to be is I just presented the autopsy report, but I'm going to go through one by one just in case. And it's a good thing I can skip them. She doesn't say much, so it makes it very quick. I wonder what she looks like underneath the mask. Do you like this toy? You want to have a look at a gun? If you don't tell me what I know, I'll shoot. Alright, I guess I'll show the autopsy report. Dr. Gory, we actually came here to ask you about this. He was very good. Good? Sorry? His skin didn't snag my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with. We can skip those details. God, imagine if Gina was here. She would be freaking horrified at that. But there is one thing about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded a time of death. Oh, hello. Oh, you look like Alice from frickin' Shin Megami Tensei. That's not my fault. Oh, that made me jump. Then please, tell us what happened. So, why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death, then? It's really the most crucial detail. I was told not to write it. What? By whom? Mael Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice, he came here. Lord Strongheart came? He said that from the witness statement about the gunshot and the other evidence, it was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on the 1st of November, when the gunshot was heard. But that's not the time of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gory, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later, you're gonna go to the same way as your mother. Oh, okay. Give it here, then. Hmm? What's she scribbling so furiously? She literally puts like, go fuck yourself! There. You've written... What? What's she written? Tell us. Indeterminate. But... Details of the autopsy report has been updated. But doesn't she have to do that for all of them? If you just do it for my one, it's not going to say it on the other copies. What do you mean by that? Why was the time of death indeterminate? When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh. So the time of death could easily have coincided with the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy. What discrepancy? There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. And that fish had started to rot. What? If the victim liked fried fish, he presumably liked to eat it before it went off. Well, yes. What are you really trying to say? It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death. Manipulate the... Is that even possible to do? Theoretically, if you were to chill the body on ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. And if the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time, then only the fish would have started to rot. With today's science, it's not yet possible to determine if the body was chilled or not. But today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator. Did they even have electrical refrigerators yet? I thought they only had ice ones. I thought it wasn't until like the 20s, the 1920s or something that started to come into a thing. And I don't imagine many households in London are equipped with such a device. No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory or some other special places? I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street, though. I wonder if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow. What might the actual time of death have been? I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it might have been a day earlier. No! In other words, it would corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Naruhodo. The Inspector Gregson was killed a day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility? He simply said that there were no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity. Lord Strongheart, you've crossed me for the last time! Oh yes, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barclay Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Scythe, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution? The professor. She's upset now. You've upset her. How dare you, chat? Apparently you've always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago. That's not all Mama did. Sorry? My mama carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zieks as well. What? Really? The brother of Lord Van Zieks, the professor's final victim. The idea of carrying out an autopsy on a member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then. But the detective in charge of the investigation insisted, and he was miraculously authorized. The detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. Quite an accomplishment for one man. That autopsy provided the final clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historic event. What does all this mean? You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The professor and Clint Van Zieks. They both spent their final moments before their burial on that dissection table there. So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events. She really is proud of her mother. I wonder if you'd tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gorey? Okay. More information. The professor's execution was Mama's first big case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber. and sign the certificate to confirm the convict's death. Mama is the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her. But the execution didn't exactly take place. No, and worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak. Wait, what? I didn't want to know. Oh dear. You found out recently, you mean? I believed in her, in Mama, but... Now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her. You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? But that's because Lord Strongheart forbade you from including it. Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too. Yes, that's my feeling as well. There's no doubt that there were powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been on it as well. The big man with the little handcuffs, according to what he told us, he was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Of course he'd say that. I'd say the same thing. Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? It was Clint! His brother! He's not really dead! You mentioned the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks. It was at a time when carrying out autopsies of murders victims were very unusual. It's still not a practice that's observed in our country even now. It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as the secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. That's right, my daddy. And there was one person present, one other person, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East. Wait, a visiting student? It must have been my father, Eugene Mikotoba. I had no idea Professor Mikotoba had been involved in something so important. Could he even be a part of that? Because that's like personal attachment kind of thing. But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor. So that's how they came to identify Genshin Asogi as the infamous mass murderer. Do you happen to know anything about the piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more? Would you like to see the records for yourself? What? Would that be alright? What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're filed under V at the back of those cupboards, with the other records from the last decade. Thank you. I'm surprised you still got something from a decade ago. I thought you put it in storage by now. Let's see. Van Zeeks. That's strange. What, Mr. Naruhodo? They aren't here. There's no under Van Zeeks. There must be. Perhaps somebody took them away? No one's allowed to take documents related to the professor's case out of this room. But you're right. They're gone. Well, when was the last time somebody looked at them? Do you remember? It was Strongheart again, I bet. It was... Oh yes, I remember now. It was 2 years ago. I was just looking upwards. A consultant detective came one day saying that he'd like to see the records. No, you don't mean... Herlock Sholmes was his name. Oh, wow. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Deep down, I knew that was coming. Do you think he stole the records? Oh, no, surely not. Iris, that can't be right, can it? Iris? And then she cried. Runo. I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris? I just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm gonna have to leave you now. Even though this is nothing to do with the bombshell that was just dropped on me. I now have to go talk to someone. I'll be right back. And then she disappeared and was kidnapped. Oh, this is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then. Oh, no. There's no need. You and Runa can take your time here. Bye for now then. Good luck. She ran just like the doctor. Wait a minute, little girl. Me? I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you? Have you, Iris? Yes, 2 years ago, when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too. That's the way it usually works. Yes. Okay, so she was here as well. That's great. How old is she again? She's 10, so she would have been 8 back then. Or was I? I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash. Wait, Iris. I'll brew up a Potter when you get home. What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either. It's been quite a while since I've had any visitors. This was really fun. But next time you come, I prefer it if you were ready for dissection. I can't make any promises, sorry. I'll send you a body next time, I guess. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zeek's autopsy have disappeared. But I think we've asked all we came to ask now. Right, how long are we going for? 2 hours. Or 2 hours, almost 30 minutes. Almost done? How much is left? If there's like an hour left, I'd rather leave that for next time. Let's go... I haven't been here for a while. Let's go here. Oh, there's a case here now. 2nd of November, room on Fresno Street. The police are still busily investigating here and there. But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Yes, it's been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Perhaps she's out investigating on her own? Practicing what her boss taught her? Well, I suspect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait? Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here. Isn't there? We could always use the time to investigate more thoroughly. At least 20 to 30 minutes? Okay, we'll try and go through quickly then. The photograph of Mrs. Vigil. Realizing the identity of this lady was a very great clue exposing Mr. Gossip's true identity. He obviously loves his wife very dearly, which is why he felt he couldn't tell her the truth. The transformation was incredible, wasn't it? Just from that big twisted lip. Yes, he went to extraordinary efforts to play the part of Hugh Boone. Every time. Hugh Boone, convincingly. Although it didn't really seem like it was much of an effort to me. Now that you say it, I have to agree. It's almost as if it was Mr. Vigil's true character. People really are very hard to fathom at times. There are details of the case stretching back over 10 years on this notice board. Yes, a history of Lord Van Zeek's defeats in court. I don't think that's an appropriate description. Although, when you consider everything on the board, it's certainly true. That all these people had a background of dubious dealings. And in the end, of course, the board itself concealed the inspector's own death. Oh my, it really doesn't bear thinking about. Do you have anything new? Nah. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it? Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. Me, it's mine now. There are some initials on the outside, look. TG. Tobias Gregson. Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here. Oi! What do you think you're doing? There she is. That's my truck, that is. Hands off. Gina! Where were you hiding? I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds and every Tom, Dick and Harry's got his greedy eyes on it. Just a wild guess, Gina, but... What? Spit it out, Otto. Is it fair to say that you only owned this trunk since this morning's trial? What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. Always has. Where you been the last year? Trying not to incur your wrath, mainly. Let me finish looking. I'd never imagined that this little figurine would turn out to be a watch-winding key. I suppose it's a policeman's because the poetry watch was a gift from Scotland Yard. It seems there was much more to Inspector Gregson than we ever realised. He was clearly a brilliant man. It's the fish and chips that threw us off. I feel as though it ruined his image. I really don't think we should blame one of the Britain's staple cuisines. But think about it. Imagine if it was Mr. Sholmes. How would you feel if instead of that old briar pipe that he always has in his hands, Mr. Sholmes had a bag of chips? Rather disappointed, if I'm honest. Exactly. Fish and chips are the great thing to hide behind, I guess. This revolver, just who does it belong to? Well, we've known that the type of is issued to members of the police force and judiciary. But Gregson's own gun was found on his person. And of course, Lord Van Zeeks had admitted to losing the firearm which he was issued. Such an absent-mindedness, not dissimilar to you, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm starting to think the cold, hard prosecutor and I are becoming friends after all. Or could become friends. Then I wish you every success. Yeah! Naruhodo Van Zeeks! If it turns out that Gregson didn't actually die in here at all, where on earth could he have been killed? Well, one way or another, we must find out. For the inspector's sake. You know, you look awfully pale again today, Mr. Naruhodo. Ugh, sorry. When I start thinking it all through, I conjure up some horrible images in my mind. Your imagination is the culprit here, then. Most certainly guilty. Using a candle as a timer device. Very ingenious, I must say. Yes, the culprit arranged it so that the firecracker would be set off at 5 o'clock and then left. So that loud bang was heard precisely the moment Lord Van Zeeks arrived, yes? If only you hadn't picked up that gun from the floor. It's something you probably told yourself once upon a time, I imagined. Yes, I've learnt that lesson by bitter experience. I would have turned it and run a mile for sure. Which may not have done you any favours either. Alright, I think that's everything again, so... Back to Gina. Paper? Oh, that business? Yep, Inspector Lestrade here soon had that one button up. I thought it was Mr. Sholmes who led that pair into a trap, wasn't it? Listen, Otto. It ain't easy going from East End diver to Scotland Yard detective, right? But anyway, it's all part of the charm, innit? Been a bit loose with the truth when it helps. That's wrong for so many reasons. Maybe I should get Iris to write some stories about me. The Adventures of Inspector Lestrade. Okay, I skip this because it's already been seen. It's going to be like, I don't want to see anything. Nothing about that. The wig? You think about this? I'd take a Gina Investigations game. That'd be interesting. What do you take for this autopsy report? What about this picture? Fine, I guess look at the pocket watch. Nothing? Really? The book? You don't want to talk to me at all about any of this stuff. Fine, I'll talk to you first. You should hear them talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers. You mean the whole Reaper thing? Yeah. Apparently the boss was investigating stuff that no one else in the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals what got off scot-free. Yes, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zeeks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction. Well then, obviously it was that bloomin' Reaper given the orders, wasn't it? But why would people be suspecting the Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings? There was a notebook hidden in his office. Oh no, this doesn't sound good. It had details about all the crimes that have been pegged as the Reaper's work. What? No, did you see it, Gina? Did you see that notebook? They wouldn't flaming let me, because I'm an apprentice apparently. But it was me who found it and he was my boss. That's right. I was pretty miffed about it, so I sneaked a peek at what it said anyway. Oh, that's our Gina. Ooh, secret notebook. So, you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you? The way I see it, it's my right to read what he wrote. And what had he written, Gina? Dates, times, places, names, an all long list of them. All details about the bludgeons supposed to have been done in by the Reaper. But there could have been an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the Inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly! That's what I said! That's the first thing you'd think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognised anyway. Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of London's criminal underworld. It was just the Death Note. Well, yeah, but there was one name that was right at the end that was a bit odd. At the end of the list, you mean? I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st of October. Oh, the day before the Inspector was found dead. So, what was the odd name? It weren't like a name I ever seen before. It was something like, Nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, but it put it that way. I swear, if it was Assassin. Oh dear, what a pity. There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but same name kept coming up over and over. Sheen, it was. I don't suppose it means anything, but... Oh, okay. I guess I was right. That was another one that came up. Did you say Shin? Eh? What? Does it mean something? Or it does mean something? Lord Van Zeeks knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we found out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook? Interesting. The plot thickens. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina? Well, of course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating in that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened. The day before? That would be the undercover investigation into the Red-Headed League, then. Only the boss didn't go, did he? He found some cove what was pretending to be him, didn't he, Eldor? Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day, posing as Gregson. Well, anyway, you ain't the only one who's turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results. Dog! Dog! When me and my partner get together, there's nothing we can track down. Oh, and little Toby. He's such a faithful friend. So, have you tracked anything down then? What do you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't you tell, though? Can't tell, though. Police business, innit? Ugh. Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need any help, You know, to turn to, right? Me and the Owlhound here. Right. Because he looks oh so hellish. Honest. Gina, about your Owlhound there. I just put him down. You make me pick him up again? Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's the pride of the force, he is. In Japanese, police dogs mean something quite different, and not altogether nice in those involved crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least. It should be. After all, in a great exhibition case the other day, it was Toby here who managed to locate Drebber's workshop. Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh? Do we have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of, I wonder?
Take that!
One of these? Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a wit sniff of this. Look at him go! Good boy! he might be a little too keen, don't you think? Oh, what the hell? The Chief Inspector made short work of Gina there. Woof. I need to say woof because he did it himself, but yeah. Look what he's got on to. Oh my, that trunk clearly has a very strong scent. Of Inspector Gregson. In other words, it must have belonged to him. Oh, alright. It's a fair cop, I suppose. And you nearly got away with it, too. If it wasn't for you kids and meddling dog. You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, wasn't it? That's enough now then, Gina. Eh? I think it's time you told us the truth. About that trunk. That was easy. It weren't like that. It was just weren't. What are you talking about? I know what's going through your head of yours, but that ain't what happened. Alright then, what did happen? Like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby here have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. And as soon as I'd done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to the sandwich. Sandwich? Not a bag of chips? Mr. Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness. Oh, I forgot about that sandwich. Yeah, he had it in between those winter wars of his. The boss's trunk. Turns out he was the killer all along. Actually, that would make sense, because he was the last one that was there when the carriage guy died. Could he be the killer? You mean when they heard they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in there? Exactly. He nabbed him from the scene. Goodness. Me and Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what he said? I thought it might fetch a good price, and the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... But that's all I did, nothing more. No, nothing less. Would you happen and Eve the cheek of it, stealing the dead boss's stuff to flog? So Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime, then. How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. In a pretty decent trunk, so I figured they might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well, maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. Time to look inside the trunk. I think perhaps that trunk should have been turned over to the police, don't you? What are you on about? I'm the police. Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it? Yeah, alright then. Do what you want with it. Thank you. We shall make a detailed record of our examination of the evidence. Gregson Trunks has been added to the court record. Cool. What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden? Mr. Naruhodo, be careful, it must be the trunk. Ah! The dog's attacking me! Ah! Toby, oi! What are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off. Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Naruhodo! Gina, quickly, hail a carriage. Did we die? 2nd of November, 4:57 p.m. Naruhodo's legal consultancy. Yeah, he gets killed by the small dog. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, are you alright? Miss Susato? Ah, conscious again at last! A blessed relief, my dear fellow! After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier. Most unseemly. That was not a terrier. Was it? What is or isn't seemly is irrelevant here, Mr. Sholmes. That's the first time she's actually lost her temper with him. I'm so glad there was no lasting damage. How are you feeling? I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? What's this on my head? A bandage? Sadly, we had no ice, so that's a compress for splash of sugar water. Sugar water? Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. It's just first aid treatment that my father taught me. Oh, thank you. So, let us take a tea while you're feeling up for it. But of course, no sugar in the patient's cup. Ugh, the bump of my head is throbbing sweetly enough, don't worry. Hee hee. When do you feel ready, then? Oh, Sholmes is just in the background, just standing there. Susato taking care of her man. Go back immediately and speak to Gina? Fine. I'll come back. I don't think she's here anymore. Oh no, there she is. Gina, I'm really sorry. It's daft, isn't it? If you asked me a year ago, the cops could have been hanged for all I cared. We got our police, ain't we? To catch the bludgers. So as divers can go about our business in peace. Not even a, oh, are you okay? Just, I'm crying. Wait, sorry? I don't think I've heard that properly. He said he was going to teach me everything I need to know to be a detective. All we got around to show me is where the best flaming fish and chips were. Actually, that reminds me. Gregson said he was supposed to be going to Paris in the near future, didn't he? Is something wrong? Oh no, I'm sure I'm reading too much into things. It's just that the timing seems very coincidental. Hmm? You know, the boss was acting a bit strange recently. Like he was always in a rush. Oh, achievement for talking with Gina after Ryunosuke regains consciousness. She doesn't even care that I got attacked by her dog. In some way, this place seems to rather suit Lord Banziks. Oh dear, did I say that aloud? Alright, back to the consultancy so we can talk to people. Oh wait, I think that's just a normal one. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? It's rather unusual to find ourselves here in the middle of our investigations. It's just occurred to me that I might have forgotten something when we left this morning. But please don't worry, as long as you continue to investigate thoroughly, you won't have to go far. Or go far wrong. Oh, yes, of course. I must get back to work as soon as possible. Let me have a look at the new stuff we got first before I talk to you, Mr. Sholmes. There's a cut on here. Have you seen this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the lever into the metal behind. Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged, whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force. A bullet, maybe? I wonder how it happened. There's blood on it. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood. Ugh, I knew you were going to say that. So that presumably means that this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes. To think Gina's been carrying this around with her. If you didn't know any better, I suppose it does look like a grease stain from one of the fish and chips. That would have to be a lot of grease on those fish and chips. Jeez. Nothing on the bottom. Let's have a look inside. Oh, I actually bent into the thing. Do you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk there. It's glinting. It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged in so tightly I can't remove it. Well, don't cut yourself. Better leave it. You better leave it, I think. It's quite obviously a bit of a knife. Look, there's something inside. Ooh, let's see. It appears to be a passport, authorizing him to travel overseas. Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then? Perhaps the date of departure might tell us something. That was... Oh, what is it? It was for travel on the 31st of October, just one day before the incident. What? Really? Ah. It was to travel to France the day before his body was discovered. Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered? What are these things, like shampoo bottles? Is that it? It's just this part and this thing? There's nothing else is highlighted. I guess that's it. Interesting. Tobias Gregson, passport number ACDC. ACD 0522. I don't know why I said 055. Date of departure within 1 week of the 31st of October. Destination, Port of Dunkirk, France. Purpose of travel, police business. Notes, permissions for the applicant, and one additional person to travel. Okay. What are you doing, Sholmes? Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say I was quite startled when I heard that you've been attacked by a dog. For a moment I feared that infamous murder of so many had come back from the dead. You mean the professor? Fortunately, I see your prize throat is unscathed. That stiff turned-up color of yours obviously afforded some welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I really remember is the dog licking my face over and over and over again. Fun fact, ACD 0522, Arthur Conan Doyle, born May... Ah! Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. Good pointing that out, Astro Dude and Saroon. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in the future, a little mustard spread on the cheeks should do the trick. I should think that would balance the sweetness of our bandage rather splendidly. That's it? Okay, I guess, down we go. Why are we looking over here? Sholmes is sweet. Huh? Huh? What the hell happened here? What? What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream? Ah, no, it's an old German folk song. Rather a fine rendition, I think. That's the least of my concerns. Iris? Iris, what's the matter? Who is that sprawling... that relaxed gentleman over there? It's quite clearly your father. All he has is a mask on. Iris, is she even listening? Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing so merrily, but would you be so kind as to explain the situation? Well, that worked. A crooning gentleman and a mute young girl. A rather tantalizing juxtaposition. And on one, that appears to have incited the gods of deduction within me to find their voices too. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... She's like got her mouth all pouted out. The strains of reasoning with me are playing now as a delightful duet. One melody sings of a reunion full of nostalgia. Has she got something in her mouth? Whilst the other is a morose theme about the great secret you're trying so desperately to conceal. Iris. She's turned as white as a sheet. So as usual, you'll have instantly seen to the very heart of the matter. And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Music Land, where all is sweetness and delicacy and harmony. Pray, do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular. Okay, this is the last part, and then we'll have to stop. If this goes on for another hour, I'm just going to end it. Man's identity. First, we must consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language. As evidenced by the Germanic song he sings with apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. So why is the man here at all, in such an apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris is clearly known to you. Indeed, Indeed, we only need follow the gaze of those bright young eyes to unravel this particular part of the mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. Yeah, she has something in her mouth. At least I think so, because there's no way she's just pouting the entire time. And not opening her mouth at all. You obviously offered our German guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirits soar. And resulted in this joyfully ditty tumbling incessantly from his lips. I eagerly await the sampling of the flavor myself, that I may join the fellow in the state of elation. Now to the next question. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived at my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund von Ormstein. We know that guy. The King of Germany. If my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to the King of Germany. It would appear that His Majesty remembers the fine services I afforded him, and was decided to show his face again, masked and all, in order to express his gratitude. A well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? Yeah, the little German boy's father. So the identity of this masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the great exhibition. The King of Germany. Girls, silence. The looks they give him, yeah. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed within that knapsack. £5 note, I believe. I must say, as your compatriot, I'm deeply saddened. The German King plot is from the Scandal in Bohemia. Oh, God. Speaking of Bohemia, did you know that the latest game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, has Bohemia as one of its main focuses of its plot? It would appear that you have allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness, earning yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the king's secret. And now the final piece of the puzzle. What is that secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah, yes, we need only follow that brief involuntary twitch of your eye to find the answer. That you were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup. This cave is full of perjury. It appears that His Higher Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of this hijinks. Which leads to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cup has been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you tried to conceal it from me. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement. He's so sad about his cup. Jeez. But thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this painful puzzle. With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial warblings rather strings in the ears, does it not? Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me. Pray, Mr. Zato, do tell. His Royal Highness doesn't appear to have moved a muscle since we arrived. Ah, and you haven't said a word either, Iris. If Mr. Sholmes has it all right, you might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning is entirely without substance, I must admit. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Yet another grievance, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, surely not. Well, I actually read the story of that case recently, the one where you were just describing. And according to that, at least, it wasn't the King of Germany. It was the King of Bohemia. Oh, goodness, was it? Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified to that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite a scandal. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that it's our turn now to make some corrections to a number of minor errors that might have slipped in. Yes, even Mr. Sholmes is willing to admit he might have slightly wide on the mark this time. Although it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. We have to find the truth behind this mysterious scene. It's quite obvious. It's her father, just with a mask on. It's not even that hard to find out. It's not covering his entire face. Raiden and Toe are beefing. But one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. So, shall we embark again on a point presentation of Sherlock Holmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular? Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Man's identity. Firstly, we shall consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language, as evidenced by the Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. So, why is the man here at all, and in such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we only follow your gaze to those bright young eyes to unravel that particular part of the mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. So what, is some kind of mix of herbs that gives you the urge to sing? Oh goodness, I should like to try some. And I'd like to hear you singing. Or you're singing, but this man... Just how long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose? As I said, it's been stock still the entire time, and if you look closely, his lips aren't moving either. So I'm not sure what's actually responsible for the spirited singing, but I suspect the answer lies at the end of Iris's gaze. Wait, this is a gramophone still rarely seen in our own country. The sound certainly appears to be coming from the horn, but machines singing, that can't be right. Science and technology are changing the world rapidly, Mr. Naruhodo. What's right is changing too. Ugh, it's too much for my brain. Well, at least we've found the answer.
Take that!
Baker Street karaoke night. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the gramophone. Indeed, for no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song making a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all. It would appear the fellow is unconscious. The music seems to have stopped now. I ask you, Mr. Sholmes, or Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? He wanted some German thing and he just forgot about it. Well, never mind, on with the deduction. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly on the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particular delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance. That might be proven problematic. I'm speeding through it because we've already had it. In order to conceal the nobility that he's blah blah blah, the officer of the mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm, the King of Germany. If my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question that mask belongs to the King of Germany. Although we've already established that it was actually the King of Bohemia, it seems Mr. Sholmes intends to persist with his German theory for some reason. Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he? Master Gotz, the boy whom you had in tears? Don't remind me, or anyone else. Do you suppose all members of the aristocracy of mainland Europe wear masks? I'm sure they do. Well, probably. Anyway, the point is that the mask doesn't belong to any king. No, that's right, as well we know. Because we can identify the true owner of this mask. There you are.
Take that!
Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to Kazuma Asogi. In other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you could try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask has been languishing on this metal chest for several days. And though that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now, but it is now simply a matter to determine our guest's true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious. We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask and peer underneath it. I don't believe it. But father. She just turns into the thing as well. I'm afraid, Mrs. Adder, you must be mistaken. No, I think not, Mr. Sholmes. But then it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. This mysterious visitor is my unconscious father, Eugene Migatoba. Logic and reasoning, or just looking and saying. That's how the picture goes now. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed with that sack. Why am I having trouble saying that word? So that's a £5 note poking out from Iris's backpack, is it? Oh dear, I can't be sure. Most money that we encounter is in coin form. I know. I'm not even sure if we've seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we? But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence. He certainly seems like the silent type himself, though, judging by his present state. There must be some other reason for Iris's silence, I suppose. Perhaps what Iris is trying so hard not to give away with her eyes is something entirely different. Whoa, whoa! Camera! The metal chest. It contains important documents, doesn't it? Yes, details on the case Mr. Shums had worked on over the years. Written up by Iris's father, if I remember correctly. Iris insists that the chest is kept locked at all times. She's never once shown me inside. Well, its contents are invaluable to her, I suppose, and entirely irreplaceable. But look at it now. The catch is unlocked for once. So it is. That's hard to ignore. Very. I've never seen that chest unlocked before in all the time we've been staying here at Baker Street. Imagine if this is what suddenly makes everything very serious. Be like, wait a minute, the chest is open, and Sherlock Holmes just like, or Herlock Sholmes, like just locks in. He's like, what?
Take that!
Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside the metal chest. An excellent observation, for upon closer inspection, there's something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. But it's a simple matter enough to decide you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need to open this chest. Here we go. No, Hurley, don't. What the hell? Mr. Sholmes, Hurley. That was too many things saying at once. They both not knocked down. Ooh, I went dizzy there. Oh, you got knocked the hell out. Jesus. He's dead. Never. Oh, Hurley, I told you not to open it. Ah, so you found your voice now, Iris. In other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is... This is somewhat different than the usual dance for deduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it? Well, he's left me alone on the ballroom floor, so I'm going to have to dance this next part solo. Anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so... You mean you don't actually know the answer yet, despite that knowing point of the finger before? Sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later. Oh, well, if you say so. I think we better examine Iris more closely and try to rescue the situation then. She has a key. That's a key she's holding. Look. I'm sure that wasn't in her hands before, was it? No, you're quite right. It has appeared as if by magic. That's strange. A big old iron key. Where did it materialize from? Her backpack, maybe? I'll just present this. It's quite obvious. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is that key behind your back. Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before. Just before you called out to try to stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hands, no doubt. The key to the chest. She had an entire key in her mouth? That's a big key. You're so clever, Runo. So now it becomes clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can now well imagine what happened here. But Professor Mikotoba also opened out that metal chest only to be punched into the air and land sprawled on the settee. But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf and the cup of tea? And above all, why would he be wearing Kazuma-sama's mask? Well, for those curious details, I can think of only one explanation. Clearly, an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. When Professor Mikotoba opened the chest, completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flung into the air just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when he fell back down. The teacup's journey through the air ended up when it caught into the unconscious professor's finger. You mean to say that this stylish scarf is actually just a tablecloth or a doily? This is the Great Detective's office, after all, a place of miraculous deductions. Would you expect anything less? She's filling in for Sholmes. She doesn't know what she's doing, but she's doing it. Yes, you're right. It happened exactly as you said. Brilliant, Funo. Thus concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction of this punchy puzzle. So then, why don't I make a fresh pot of tea for all of us?
Objection!
Oh, he said it. An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show there, you rather missed everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes, if you would cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. It's still going! I thought it was ending! Iris, clearly you are hiding a great secret. She is? From the look on her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. The music is actually continuing to a different tune. Nearly. Whatever the great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So I put it to you again. You were attempting to abscond with the coffee cup. If it really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup, it must have been smashed when Professor Mikotoba opened the chest. Oh dear, so many things seem to have been broken here. But now the deduction has taken a different direction, Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore. In other words, her great secret is something else. Let's put our observational skills to work here one final time then. It's literally right under it, I just saw it. Look! There seems to be some papers here. Is Iris trying to hide them underneath the tray? The insignia, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a hedgehog. Oh, okay. It's the official Scotland Yard document. I guess that works too. It's not a hedgehog. What? But why would Iris have... We must ask her. An official Scotland Yard document.
Take that!
Give Iris a break. She's baby. She's stealing is what she's doing. You're attempting to abscond with that case file. Iris, you as you know very well, nothing escapes the attention of the great detective. Oh no. We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today. Oh, this is a cool pose, or a cool, like, twisting shot. And Dr. Gorey informed us that the I think being creepy now, the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks had gone missing. Clint Van Zeeks? Yes, I do seem to recall. That's some years ago I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? You mean it was you, Iris? So those papers you have there are... I'm sorry. Forgive me! She's actually crying. Girl cried. Mission accomplished. To hide the case file. Tails and Shadoo. Igmin. Why are you saying it like that? Deduction complete. Elementary. In truth, I would like to have thought I have predicted the body booby-trapped chest. But it caught me completely off guard. I was very nearly in the late consulting Detective Herlock Sholmes. I'm sorry, Hurley. So you mean this auto reports really is? Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I knew it was very important. Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris? Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I'd been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it, I knew it was Daddy's. The writing? Your father's writing? What do you really mean? And why would that cause you to steal it? And why would you hide it from everyone when it's an important piece of evidence which could help someone not get killed or executed? Iris, it must be something that's hard for her to talk about. Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it? I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the settee has been somewhat forgotten. Father. Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? We must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll help you carry him up. So will I. No, I can manage alone, thank you. You have tea to enjoy. In what cups? We would want Iris's brew to stew. Because there's no better way to make the professor uncomfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I'm like imagining just dragging him by the legs and he's banging each head on each step. Yeah, exactly. I wonder, perhaps this was deliberate. Maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris the chance to talk more freely. We must use this opportunity to talk with Iris and find out what's going on. Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father? I'm sure I told you before, didn't I? That Daddy used to be Hurley's partner. Yes, and that notes about all his cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest. That's right. Hurley told me, you see. He said that Daddy's somewhere far away now, so we can't meet. That's one way of describing it. And then when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build up a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like. Well, that's only natural. You're just like any other girl of your age. I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, so I studied and took my degree too. Well, that's only natural, I suppose. In that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though. But there was one thing that I could never find out. Daddy's name. His name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he made about his work with Hurley. But then one day... That's what happened, is it? When you saw this autopsy report, you finally managed to work it out? Is that right? Yes. So it was the handwriting in the report that caught her eye. When I saw the writing on that report, I could hardly believe it. I know what that handwriting, I thought to myself. Because it was the same as the writing you'd seen on your father's case notes? Exactly. I was desperate to compare the two properly, I needed to see them side by side. I just had a random thought, but why in the hell was he even here to begin with? Mikotoba? Because, like, why would he even go in the case? And why was there a fist in it? And why didn't she get punched? I guess because she's just a lot shorter, so she wouldn't, but still. Weird. I was desperate to compare the two properly. I needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor in the laboratory, but I was told I couldn't take the report away. And even worse, I was told that was the first and last time we'd be allowed to even look at them. So you decided to steal it? When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's. And the signature on the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report read Dr. John H. Wilson. So that's how I finally found out. I learned Daddy's name at last. I see. Ever since then, I've called myself Iris Wilson. And that's also when I had the brilliant idea of writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times with Hurley. I decided then and I would write the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you. I mean, I think we kind of figured that out the first time. In the first game. I can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. There might be a trick to disarm it, yeah. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. This is really all my fault. Hurley, I made a promise, you see, that until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret. I know. I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gorey and apologize, I promise. Yes, we'll go together, I think. Then let me look at it after we get there. Oh, come on, English. Clint's autopsy report has been entered into the court record. Woo! I can read it now. Imagine if they actually hid it so you couldn't actually go into the court record right now and they want you to look at it later. Clint Van Zeek's male, 33, British nationality, time of death 31st of May between 9 p.m. and midnight. John H. Wilson, death from a single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial and external wounds indicative of a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document in corresponding ink was found. Autopsy report findings. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. No internal trauma noted anywhere in the body, but it doesn't say what it was. It was the pen. I must go and water my herbs, I think. I'll see you all later. Poor Iris. She must be feeling awful. The thief. I know Mr. Sholmes is here for her, but still. What? How? What's the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes? Mr. Sholmes? Did I miss it? Let me read it again. John H. Wilson. Inspector Gregson. There's nothing here that I see that says Sholmes anywhere. Oh dear me. So, you've noticed, I see. But that would mean... What on earth's the matter, Mr. Zala? You turned as white as a sheet. Is this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo? The one from 10 years ago. The writing isn't Dr. Wilson's at all. Huh? What do you mean? How could you possibly know that? Because I know the writing very well. This writing is my father's. Oh! What? Professor Mikotoba's. Indeed, it's true. And, now you know, my dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all this mean, Mr. Sholmes? Because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind is too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. Oh god, more conversation? I thought it was going to end there. So this Autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikotoba then? But that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely. Not possible, my dear fellow. Pray, take a deep breath and think again. Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense. It does? 10 years ago is when Father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain. And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikotoba engaged? Of course. He was an assistant to Dr. Wilson's laboratory, learning about forensic science. And as an assistant, he would have aided with the detection work, making detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put his signature on the document. In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end. I see. So Iris got the wrong end of the stick, you mean? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. Jen H. Wilson. Which is very understandable, of course. What a complicated situation. There's a lot of stuff changing here now. Okay, so he wrote the report. He's the one that helped break out his father. Thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, comes from the published stories of your exploits. Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris. And we really have no way of knowing what's fact and what's fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So, what about this supposed partner of yours? Did he really exist or not? Ah, you've come straight to the point, I see. And please come to a straight answer. I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade and the only person I could truly have called a friend. And did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest? Absolutely, my dear madam. Absolutely. So, where's your partner now? We rarely meet. You see, he lives on the other side of the world. But if this autopsy report and the records of all your old cases were penned by the same hand, and if the autopsy report was written, though not signed, by your famous partner, there would be only one logical conclusion. Pray, impress me. Your partner would have had to be Yuji Mikotoba. In other words, Miss Susato's father. Which makes sense as to why he dresses up like him. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? You are coming along wonderfully. You have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. You mean to say... Allow me to introduce you to my great friend and partner, Mikotoba. He has the mustache and everything. Professor Mikotoba. Well then. It kind of makes sense when you think about it. It's like, damn it, I should have noticed that from the start. They actually hit that pretty well. Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson? No, my dear. I'm still my old self. Yuji Mikotoba, your father. Oh, of course. This is obviously too much for Miss Susato-san to take in. I must say, though, how my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Pray remind me, where was it again, Mikotoba? 16 years ago, Sholmes. Yes, quite. 16 years ago. I'd just arrived from Japan with Seishiro and Genshin. I was in search of his lodgings close to the hospital, some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. But rents are devilishly high in that particular area. Ooh. That's right, I decided to keep someone to share lodgings and the expense. And was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of the great detective you see before you now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for a little gain. And the situation of our cohabitation led us to pursuing cases together, you see. Hard to believe, it was a mere 6 years. We had a great many adventures. But in the last year of Mikotoba's stay in Britain, the most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you become rather familiar yourself, the Professor's killings. After the trial, Seishiro and I were summoned back home. And they were roommates. Hardly surprising given the circumstances. So there you have it. And as you know, all the details recorded by my trusty chronicler remain in that metal chest. This is amazing. Professor Mikotoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner. Father. Oh, goodness, my dear. What a cutting look. As your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery that I really must ask you to explain now. And that is? You know very well what that is. Or what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris's father. Of course. I'd almost forgotten about that one. Did you have an affair while you were abroad? I should have seen this coming, I suppose. Iris told us that all the notes about the great detective's adventures that are in the metal chest were written by her father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes? That is indeed what I told young Iris, but it's not what's correct. But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, father, and you wrote all those case notes, then Iris's father must be you. Upon my word, Mr. Zato. You are coming along wonderfully as well. You too have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. What you've always told me, father, is that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago, and you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your study of tour of Japan. Or Britain. Why did I say Japan? Of our own country. And I've always accepted that, but all this about Iris... Ooh, there it is. Susanna-san's ice cold stare. No, hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think. Then perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is. There it is. Now the ice go from ice cold to red hot, just before she... No, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Sholmes, say something, man. He's got a coat on, he's legging it. That's quite enough, my fiery fellows. Mr. Sholmes, when did he get all dressed up? Whilst I don't like to interrupt this exciting exploration of the past, Mikotoba and I have urgent matters that require a short excursion. But it's very late, Mr. Sholmes. Where must you go? Why, my dear madam, is that not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies. So, get your coat, Mikotoba. The game is afoot. But Sholmes, I really must give Miss Susanna a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage awaits downstairs already. Ooh, I like the song. You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really. I visit our home after 10 long years. When I open that chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably pass out. And as if that wasn't enough, when I eventually regain consciousness, I'm plunged straight into all this. Father, please. Go, Mr. Sholmes, now. What? I've no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interests. I trust you completely, even though I was willing to throw you a second ago. Susato. And sending the great detective and his great partner off on renewed adventures together is more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams. Oh, very well then. We'll speak again later. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Yes, Naruto, good luck in battle. And in reaching a decision. A decision? About whether to go back to Japan, I suppose. Yeah!
So much happened that day that I
Another
barely
voiceover.
knew what to do with myself. It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth, and that all the turmoil was necessary to give me the resolve to see everything through.
He said the game's titled. Time to end. Credits. This truly is our great ace attorney. End. Wait, that was it? That was episode 4? Huh? The case is not over. What do you mean that's the end of episode 4? The Resolve of Yonosuke Naruhodo, Trial, Part 1. What do you mean it's the final episode? I thought there'd be another case after this. You're telling me it's all one case, the last 2 episodes? Oh, okay. I don't think that's ever happened before. There's no intro. Okay, so I won't do it. Oh, it's just writing. Let me get out of here. Return to the title screen? Yes. Whew. Well, that was an adventure. I wasn't expecting it to end there, but there you go. We shall pick this up on Thursday. I had to remember what day it was. So yeah, what a twist. That was a lot of stuff that happened all at once. Like, geez. Okay, then. We'll have to see what happens next time. Tomorrow I'll be back with more Death Stranding, so look forward to that. 4 and 5 are together. Yeah, I just know. It seems to be the case. It's just so weird. We're going to pick this up next time on Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow, like I said, with Death Stranding, so look forward to that. I'm hoping that there's still a bit more to do for 5, because I thought there was going to be a lot more with Great Ace Attorney, but I guess we're a lot closer to the end than I thought we were. But yeah, that's it for today. So thank you all for watching. As usual, if you have not already, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, do those bell notifications so we know our next stream. And if you want to help support me, there's links to Patreon and tips in the description or in the bottom of the video, depending where you're watching from. And they do help a lot. And if you do become a patron, you get name added to the patron list here, where I'll give you a shout out of every stream, like I do with Hiro Kuni, the Soulmaster 37, and Rafatron 2000. I thank you for the key support, and I greatly appreciate you all. And we go and make ourselves a great ace of an attorney, and solve the cases and solve everyone's problem. But until next time, y'all take care, guys. I'll see you either tomorrow or Thursday if you want to tune in for tomorrow. But until then, y'all take care. Bye, everyone. Bye, Battleroth. Bye, Rafatron. Bye, Edward. Bye, everyone else, if you're still here. Have a good rest of the day. See ya.